Once again, good morning and welcome to our general mathematics class. Today we'll talk about simple interest. And I think you have encountered this in your previous subjects in math and even in your entrepreneurship. Let's start. Today's memory verse is found in Exodus 22, verse 25. It says, "If you lend money to any of my people with you who is poor, you shall not be like a moneylender to him, and you shall not exact interest from him." You need to reflect on that memory verse and share to us your Christian business lesson number 1. If you are a Christian businessman or businesswoman, what lesson have you learned out of these memory verse that you can apply in real life setting? At the end of today's class, you'll be able to illustrate simple interest, compute interest, maturity value, future value, and present value. And the last one is solve problems involving simple interest. And here's our venture activity for today. For example, we have two banks, Bank A and Bank B. And here's the conversation. I just received my 13th month pay, which cost 20,000. I also did, and I am planning to invest it in a bank. That seems interesting. What bank is it? I am choosing between Bank A that has 10% simple interest and Bank B with 8% interest compounded semi-annually. The other one said, if I will keep it for 5 years, in which bank should I invest? And so here at Bank A, your money will become 30,000. Here at Bank B, your money will become 30,000. And you imagine these two banks have different interest rates. It's 10% and 8%. And same time, same amount, but it will arrive in also the same amount. So if you will invest a bigger amount of money, at which bank will you invest? The main question is, why is investing at Bank A and Bank B result in the same amount after 5 years? We'll learn more about that in this lesson and in the next lesson on compound interest. For this morning, let's learn about interest, simple interest. The first term is principal. Principal is the amount of, if I'll translate it to our layman term, it is the capital. How much is your capital? That is the principal. The principal is the amount being invested or borrowed. It's also called a face value or the present value. Example, I'll have a business, then my capital is 100,000. That 100,000 is called the principal. The next term is interest. Interest is the tubo. It's not a percentage. It's the tubo. For example, if I will have 100,000 as my capital, and then later it will become 150,000, the 50,000 there, the difference is called the interest. Or if I'll borrow 100,000 from the bank, and after 1 year, I will pay 110,000, the 10,000 tubo is called the interest. The rate refers to the interest rate. How many percent is the tubo? So for example, let's go to Bank A. For Bank A, the increase will be by 10%. So that 10% refers to your rate. The full name is interest rate. but we can just call it rate. The next, time. How long will you invest or will you borrow the money? That is the time. In simple interest, remember that we need to write the time in terms of years. The next one, maturity value. The maturity value is also called the future value. If I have 100,000 now and I'll invest it for 10 years, how much will be my money after 10 years? That's why how much will be, right? The wheel there. It means it's your future value or it's your maturity value. The maturity value is the sum of the principal and the interest. So for example, if my capital is 100,000, that's my principal, and the increase, the tubo is 50,000, then my maturity value will be 150,000. Now, here's how we illustrate the simple interest. Example, if Miss Anna received 20,000 as her 13th month pay, so 20,000. If she invests her money at the bank at 10% simple interest, so it means, what's a 10% of 2,000? 20,000. That's 2,000, right? So in the first year, you add 2,000. In the second year, you add 2,000. In the third, another 2,000. Fourth, another 2,000. Fifth, another 2,000. Remember that we just base the 2,000 increase in your original amount, 20,000. So even if after many years, your 20,000 will become 50,000, still the increase will be by 2,000, not based on the 50,000. Why? Because in simple interest, the interest or the tubo is just based on your original capital. Now, how do we define simple interest? Simple interest is computing the interest based on the principal amount. Again, in simple interest, we just base the tubo based on your original capital. Even if the money gets bigger and bigger because of your tubo, still the interest is based on the original amount. That is simple interest. How do we compute? Sorry for the interest for the tubo. That will be principal times rate times time. Example, problem number 1. If an amount of 1 million, that's our principal, is invested at 10% interest rate, that's our rate, what will be its value after 5 years? The time is 5. So we need to look for the interest first. But remember, what is being asked is the value. We are looking for the maturity value. How much will be the money after 5 years? To start, let's solve first for the interest. That's going to be principal times rate times time. The principal is 1 million. The rate is 0.1. The time is 5 in 5 years. Need to start. I told you need to get a good calculator for you to answer it well. The answer will be 500,000. You can check it with me. So our interest is 500,000. Now, we are looking for the maturity value. The maturity value is principal plus interest. That's going to be 1 million. You add the 500,000 So your maturity value will be 1.5 million in peso side. Questions? No questions? Let's go to the next problem. Now, if 10,000, that is our principal, is invested at 4.5% simple interest, you need to write 4.5% in a decimal. So move it 2 decimal places to the left. 1, 2. That will be 0.045. How long? We're looking for the time. Will it take to grow to 11,000? Our maturity value is 11,000. We're looking for the time. Now, our maturity value is given. So we need to check how much is the tubo, how much is the interest. Your original money is 10,000. Your money now is 11,800. You simply subtract both of them. You'll find your interest of 1,800. Now we'll solve for the time. Remember that our formula is only one. Interest plus principal times rate times time. Actually, there are many derivations to this formula, but I'll just use this main formula. The interest is 1,800. Our principal is 10,000. Our rate is 0.045. Then times the time. Let's solve. It's 1,800. On the right-hand side, we have 450 T. Divide both sides by 450. Our T is equal to 4. So the answer will be 4 years. Any questions? Let's go to the next one. The next problem. Suppose you have savings. Your friend approached you and asked if you can lend him 10,000 for his tuition fee. That's the capital, right? The capital loan. He said he is willing to pay 5% interest per annum. So it means 0.05. Payable in 6 months. So only 6 months. You agreed with the terms. How much interest should your friend pay you after 6 months? And how much is the total amount that you will receive after 6 months? You're looking for the interest and the maturity value. But if you check, your friend will only borrow it for 6 months. I told you that in simple interest, we need to write it in terms of years. So convert months to years. It will become 0.5 or half of a year. Let's solve first for the interest. That's interest equals principal times rate times time. The principal is 10,000. Our rate is 0.05. Our time is half, 0.5 year. Let's multiply them all. You will have 250 pesos. So the interest is 250 pesos. So after 6 months, your friend needs to pay, you add this to the principal, 10,250 pesos. Questions? Easy, right? Let's go to the next one. The next question is about interest rate. At what interest rate will 12,000, that's your principal, earn 3,780 interest after 3.5 years? It's 3.5 years. So we're looking for the rate. Again, go back to your main formula. Interest equals principal times rate times time. So the interest is 3,780. Our principal is 12,000. Our rate is missing. You just write R. Our time is 3.5. Let's solve them. That's 12,000 times 3.5. That will be 42,000. R equals 3,780. You divide both sides by 42,000. So our R will be 0.09. You need to convert your decimal to percentage. So our R is at 9%. The interest rate is at 9%. Questions? No questions? Shall I go to the next problem? The next problem. Mario earned an interest of 125 pesos. That's the interest. For the money he invested at 10% simple interest, it's 0.01, 0.1 I mean, for 15 months. Convert the months to years. That will be 1.25 years. 15 divided by 12 months. How much money did he invest? We're looking for the principal. So we have I equals PRT. Our interest is 125. Our principal is missing. Our rate is 0.1. Our time is 1.25 years. Let us solve 0.1 times 1.25. The answer is 0.125. P equals 125. You divide both sides by 0.125. You use your calculator again. 125 divide 0.125. The answer is 1,000 pesos. That is our principal. Any questions? Feel free to raise your hand if you have questions, okay? Now, we have two kinds of interest. We have the exact interest and the ordinary interest. If you notice, in some cooperatives or in some loans, or sometimes we call it 5-6, they do not have the interest per year. Instead, they compute the interest in a daily basis. After how many days can you pay it, then they will compute that interest based on the number of years. Now we need to be very certain. Is it an ordinary interest or an exact interest? If you say ordinary interest, it's the same as the banker's interest. In the time component, that will be over 360. So if I'll borrow the money for 50 days, I'll pay it for after 50 days. On ordinary interest, that will be 50. But the other one is the exact interest. The exact interest assumes over 365 days in a year. Now, ma'am, what if it's not mentioned? Like if it's exact or ordinary. If it's not mentioned, then we take the exact interest. The ordinary interest will only take effect if it's mentioned, like ordinary interest, or specifically the money is borrowed from a bank. Otherwise, we just take the exact interest. Let's have this problem. You get a 180-day, 200,000 loan from a bank at 10.5% interest. We'll calculate the ordinary and the exact interest. Let's calculate first for the ordinary. It's going to be I equals PRT. Principal is at 200,000. Rate is at 0.105. Time is at 180 over 360. In the exact interest, the only difference is the time. So you have 200,000 times 0.105 multiplied by 180 over 365. You check, it's only the over that's different. So with the ordinary interest, the answer will be 10,500. With the exact interest, we will have 10,356.16. So if you ask me at what interest will I invest, if it's a loan, I'll go for exact interest because I'll pay lower. But if it's an investment, I'll go for the higher interest, the ordinary, because it will also give me a better amount. Another concern is, I'll leave this to you, it's on time. For example, on February 5, 1992, a man borrowed 5,000 from the bank with 12% interest. The loan was repaid on June 11, 1992. How much interest did the man pay? Now, here's one thing that you need to be very careful about. You need to calculate how many days have elapsed from February 5 to June 11. So calculate from 5 to 29, that's 24 days. Take note that in 1992, February is a leap year. So it will end up to February 29. If the year is at a leap year, you only have 28 days, okay? For March, 31 days. For April, 30 days. For May, 31 days. From June 1 to 11, because the payment was done in the 11th, 11 days. So we only have 121 days. Let's compute for the interest. Principal times rate times time. That's 5,000 times 0.12. Now, where was the money borrowed? The money borrowed was borrowed from the bank. So we will have the ordinary or the banker's interest over 360. That's 127 over 360. If we multiply it, the interest will be there, 211.67 pesos. Any questions? No questions?